So this isn't what I initially planned to do, but I thought I should make something. So by December, I was drowning in a lot of assignments. I had to make 2 assignments just before Christmas. One was 40 pages long, and on top of that, working in retail, and Omicron just started spreading rapidly, and it was just, it was not a fun time. I was really busy, and by the time I handed in my assignments, I realized, oh, I should probably make a list video of my favorite movies of the year, because there have been some that have meant a lot to me in a lot of different ways, but because of 2020's whack release cycle, it was hard for me to catch up on quite a few different movies. So I decided, okay, I've still got a week until the end of the year. Let's try and get through as many 2021 releases as I can. I breezed through that, got through as much as I could. Over the last week, I started recording my video. I was so excited, I was so passionate. I was making content that I haven't made in a while. I was really happy that I was working on something. I ran to the computer, plugged my footage into the computer, realized, holy crap, I recorded 3 hours worth of content. Went to press play and oh my god, I sound like garbage. My audio recording is fucked. It's been a while since I've made a video. A lot of it has come down to stress. I want to make things, I enjoy making things, and this year has just been stressful in terms of uni commitments. I had a New Year's resolution at the start of 2021, and that was to watch 1 movie per night. Just to try to broaden my horizons, try to watch as much as I could, and I did it. I watched a little over 1 movie a night. I will be making a 2021 list video. I'll have to reshoot all 3 hours, and it's gonna be a daunting task. I am working on another video as well, which requires a script, which is, I don't know, it's not that experimental, but it's experimental for me. It's something that I'm working on with a bunch of different people to get some assistance. I'm excited to work on it. This is still a passion of mine. This is just a little hobby that I want to do. There were a handful of movies that I watched this year that blew me away, that span from many different decades and countries, that I thought I might as well give a shout out to. Think of this as my highlights of 2021 of movies that came out from various places of time in film history then. All of these movies I will talk about are, in my eyes, masterpieces. These are movies that I have now watched more than once and have had a grand impact on me in one way or another. It's just something to get my creative juices flowing. The first movie I want to talk about today is the movie Ran, directed by Akira Kurosawa. Akira Kurosawa is considered a master of the craft at this point, known for many samurai movies including Seven Samurai or Yojimbo. I've been really enjoying his dramas more so, especially High and Low, but the one movie that has lingered in the back of my mind for the most time is Ran. Ran is a Shakespeare adaptation of King Lear, with every single frame of this movie being seared into my mind, being painted. I ended up buying this movie on 4K. It's easily the best looking movie I've seen this year. This movie just does a great job at capturing this slow descent into madness. It uses great visual motifs as well, with the use of red, yellow, blue. It just creates such a striking image. It's such a violent movie without necessarily using violence. This movie has some absolutely horrifying makeup and practical effects. There are certain elements where actors are being attacked and it's hard to tell, okay, are they actually in danger now? Because that looks like that could have hurt if someone was just a centimeter to the left or right. This movie is a slow burn. It gave me the feeling of just walking through an art museum, just slowly soaking everything in, soaking in tiny details of the environment. There are lots of wide-angle shots of the scenery. This is a grand epic in every sense of the word. The percussive score is very haunting. It's one of those movies where halfway through it I was realizing this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. Everyone on set knew exactly what they were making and they were reaching their highest possible potential, and whether it comes to performances or costumes or set design. The sets, they're all so grand in scale that it's so hard not to watch and not be impressed. This is my favorite Shakespeare adaptation at this point, purely from how horrifying the final product ends up being. The slow descent into madness is something that we've seen multiple times in film. This is one of the greatest examples of that. It's something about it that's just so horrifying. I would recommend this to almost anyone. I think this is one of the most essential movies anyone should watch. I don't know who I can't recommend this to, honestly. This movie is phenomenal. I honestly believe it's just one of the most essential films of all time. Absolutely loved. Masterpiece. Mwah. Another movie I watched was The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, directed by Robert Wise. This movie is over a century old now. This movie is older than most people I've met, and it is still so shocking and so horrifying. It's just nightmare fuel. This is a German expressionist silent film using very expressive sets and makeup. A lot of the sets are very pointy. A lot of features such as eyes are highlighted with heavy uses of eyeliner. All of the characters in this look like they're ripped straight out of Borderlands. but the final result creates this nightmare that's just hard to escape. There's a lot of like very interesting blocking and presentation choices that really obstruct your vision. A lot of it is held up by the time period it came out in. The jagged and static movements people have because of the way the cameras were used at that point. It gives the sense of running away in a nightmare but feeling sluggish and slowed down. There are scenes in this movie that have been imprinted into my mind just from how horrifying everything is. And the fact that this movie came out over 100 years ago and can still do that to an audience today is remarkable. This is one of those examples of a history book that doesn't feel like a chore. It holds up today in the most remarkable way. This is the same form of directing that inspired directors like Tim Burton. I fucking love this movie so much. A lot of the horror comes from the Frankenstein's monster type aspect, a tiny bit Lovecraftian. It's one of the most atmospheric films I've ever seen, and that's kind of the beauty and the madness here. There's lots of very harsh shadows with bright lighting, and again, this just all adds to that idea of a nightmare. This is one of those movies where I instantly fell in love with what I was watching. This movie is on YouTube right now. It's part of the public domain. I watched this movie very late at night with the goal of watching just something before I go to bed. I was enthralled the entire runtime. There wasn't a single point where I was bored or I was nodding off to sleep. I love these type of movies. I love these movies that sweep you into this environment that you want to escape but you just can't get out. I don't know, I can feel this movie just influencing me in many different ways in the future. I absolutely loved it. Another movie I watched was OJ Made in America. This movie made me really mad in the best way possible. It's a documentary on the trial of the century, except the movie is much more than that. It's also framing the racial tensions in America, especially in terms of things like systemic racism. It also deals with class struggles, it deals with fame and power and the influence that has on people. And this movie is gripping. I struggle to put into words exactly what made me connect with this movie so much. At a whopping 7.5 hours, there is no stone left unturned. It's an example of masterful editing and music choices that just reel you in and gives you a precise picture of the environment at the time and how these systems are still relevant today. There's as little bias in the movie as possible, as talking heads answer questions with full commitment to what they believe. There are moments where you can see the interviewees questioning their belief as they're answering their questions. Even more so, we are given casually racist remarks from people who don't realize they're being racist.
He's African, but he's a good-looking man. You know, he almost has white features.
It's hard to say whether or not this was originally meant to be a miniseries, because everywhere listed, I've seen it being listed as a movie. It's split into 5 chapters, each chapter about an hour and a half. We don't even get up to the trial until the 3-hour mark. There was a point where I had to stop because I went to go see a movie at the cinemas with a few friends. That ended somewhere between 10 and 11 o'clock, and I had work the next morning. I had 4.5 hours worth of movie to go, and I decided, screw it, I'll watch one more chapter, and I ended up watching the entire thing the rest of the night. I was up until 3 or 4 in the morning and had to get ready for work in the next couple of hours because I was just so engaged with what Ezra Edelman was able to construct, as well as how he was presenting the story. No one is given a positive light in this movie. Everyone has issues. There's so much wrong with this, not just this case, but the events that led up to it, that you understand why people feel the way that they do. It's easy to empathize with so many people in this, except for OJ, you know, fuck him. I don't know if I'd say this movie is an easy watch, mainly because a lot of what's being shown is very graphic in a lot of ways, not just in terms of the murder, but also in terms of racist events that happened before the trial, that just shape an understanding of what the racial viewings of America was at that point. At the very forefront though, this documentary just shows just how emotions can be manipulated and how they can influence people around you. I knew a bit about the trial beforehand, and there are elements in the story that I can see be argued are necessary, but there's so much in this that has to be explained before we get to the trial to explain the trial. I haven't seen The People vs. O.J. Simpson yet, and there's a part of me that says I don't think I should. Not because I don't think it will be good or bad or anything like that, but it looks like there's so much baggage that has to be communicated before we get to the trial, just to paint a picture of the social tensions surrounding the case before it happens. This is the type of story that can only be fully presented in the form of a documentary, because there are honest reactions that just need precise reenactments that is not impossible, but it's very hard to communicate into a biopic. I've rewatched this documentary recently, and the rewatch was solidified it as a masterpiece to me. I would argue that this is the best documentary I've ever seen in my life, just because of how masterfully Edelman managed to piece all these puzzle pieces together and not tell you whether or not he was innocent or guilty, but shows you everything that led up to it and the events that happened afterwards. The documentary isn't about the trial, it's about this interesting character that managed to weave his way in and out of systemic class. I do think it is an essential viewing. Absolutely masterpiece, another mwah. Just one more bonus entry. There was a point earlier in this year where I was just super stressed. I needed to come home, lay down, and just relax. And at that point, I was just getting so sick of video games. It was just not fulfilling this crave I was after. So I decided to put on Stop Making Sense, the Talking Heads concert film directed by Jonathan Demme. I played this loud and all of my tension just released away, and it was like, holy shit, I love this movie, I love this music. I'm gonna watch American Utopia again, directed by Spike Lee, and I ended up bumping both of those movies up to 10s, mainly because there's this energy and charisma that is shown from these movies that show that concerts have the capability of being treated as films. Both movies tell narratives in different ways. While American Utopia gives a TED Talk-esque type expression into the world of David Byrne and how he views the world and how he doesn't trust the government, but he wants to trust them to pave the way for greatness. But then you also have Stop Making Sense, which tells the narrative of the band while giving stellar performances and great directing that inspired concerts for generations to come. The sound mixing and mastering in these films are phenomenal, to the point where blasting it loud is the only way to really capture the experience. It's energetic throughout the runtime. What's even shocking is that with American Utopia, David Byrne is in his 60s now. He still manages to give that energetic, charismatic performance that not a lot of musicians are able to show. These movies are creatively presented, but they give you a vibe of these concerts without actually having to be there. We scarcely see the audience reaction because there's just so much emphasis on the band itself. The cameras are always in different positions and always give a framing that captures the song. For example, with Once in a Lifetime, we are shown only David Byrne throughout the entirety of the performance as he's slamming his head, as he's chopping his arm, and it gives this existential threat, this crisis that this singular person is going through as he feels trapped amongst the darkness. And that's the vibe that the song is going for, as it gives this very beautiful orchestration while being super dark. These movies are just instant stress relievers for me. At the very most, it showed me that concert films should be treated on the same basis as narrative films, because there is still a lot that can be told within these art forms. I would honestly recommend Stop Making Sense to people who have not listened to the band Talking Heads, because it gives you the image that the band is trying to paint through the music and gives you a boost to understand, okay, this is the style, the vibe that they're going for. On one hand, it is a little silly, but it still manages to connect personally to different people for various different reasons, and that's the sign of great art. You can find Stop Making Sense on YouTube right now for free. They're the pinnacle of music expressionism to me. Those were just a handful of movies that I watched this year. There were a lot of movies I watched. These were just the highlights that I just realized, oh my god, they are masterpieces. All of them should be admired in some way or another. I will be finishing my 2021 list. I will be reshooting it as soon as I finish this session. God, hopefully I can sort problems out soon. Hopefully this video's audio isn't fucked, otherwise I'll be really sad. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope these movies give you. Hopefully I can. I hope these movies give you. Hopefully I hope these movies give you. Hopefully I hope these movies give you. Hopefully these movies give you. Hopefully I hope these movies give you. Hopefully I hope these movies give you. We live inside a dream. Hopefully I hope these give you. We live inside a dream. Hopefully I hope we live inside a dream. Yeah. Talk to you later. Bye. Mwah.